But speaking of replay value, we have a rematch on our hands. UFC 294.
We have a rematch.
UFC 294 has just been flipped on its head. Our main event is switched. Our co-main event is on the table for whoever wants to step up. Islam Makhachev is going back up against Alexander Volkanovski in the rematch in Islam's backyard this time. I couldn't be happier about the matchup. Everybody's a Charles fan nowadays. You want to see Charles Oliveira in the octagon, but if you can't get him, then let's get that rematch with two of the greatest on the planet right now.
Yeah, I think the rematch is going to be fascinating because of the lack of timing, right? Like, we talked about this even coming up in here, was Volk has to have been training at even just like a baseline level. Like, he might not have been training for the fight, but he's training in general. And who else do you think would have gotten the fight if it wasn't him?
Well,
because I feel like they're forcing this fight, which I'm fine with, but there's somebody else who probably could have gotten the fight in the division.
Yeah.
Really interested to see who do you think it could have been? Who are like the two guys outside of Charles who could have gotten this fight and you would have been like equally as excited?
Equally as excited, I don't know, but one person that definitely could have and should have got the fight maybe is Mateusz Gamrot. He just went up against Fiziev a few weeks ago, and that stopped in the second because of an injury.
Now, what's he ranked?
He's got to be top 5.
Okay.
Definitely top 10. He's got to be pushing top 5 at this point. He's been around for a while. He's been winning. He lost to Beneil Dariush. That was his only loss in recent memory. He's definitely, I don't know if he's lost that outside of that, but he's got the wrestling. He's a wrestler too, so the wrestling exchanges in that fight with Islam would be money. I'd love to see that.
Okay. I like Gamrot.
Outside of Gamrot, it's hard to pick. You got Gaethje, who just knocked out Dustin.
Like, I think that's
a draw. That's a big draw. Like, people want to see him.
Yeah, I think he's just as entertaining as Volk. I don't think he's better than him, but I think he's as entertaining. And I don't know if they want Islam to be the champ if you give him Volk.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because
I think Volk's personality and his charisma ooze through the screen. So, like, it's easier to be able to say, you know what, like, if Charles won this, we would have been excited, but like and that would have been fine. Like, that would have been fine with the UFC because that's kind of, and that's, you know, it's funny. We talk. You're learning more about business and how this stuff works, and that to me is like, that's a business move.
Yeah.
Like, this is a business move right here more than just like a fill-in move, because fill-ins are typically not the guy who's like the hardest guy to beat in any division. Like, it's not going to, like, they shouldn't have given him, okay, yeah, I'll just take Volkanovski. That's fine. They could have totally said, like, we're going to give you Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
And like, that's just as good. It's just as difficult of a matchup, but a one that Islam can handle if they're trying to keep him champ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Volkanovski, like you said, the charisma is through the roof. He's a marketable guy.
Dude, you can see that a mile away.
Yeah. It's very obvious that Volkanovski was going to be a superstar and became a superstar. He is one. Even losing to Islam, his stock went up. So
yep,
that plays into probably why they gave him this rematch. There's a lot of questions going into it, like you said, with the timing. Volk just had surgery in July, I think. So what are we, 3 months out of that?
What do you have surgery on?
It was either his elbow or his hand. It was one of those, but you have to think he's a super athlete. He's going to come back from that pretty quickly and get back into training.
He's going to be fine.
So the question, you know, that's a question still. Like, what does that injury look like? What does his cardio look like training after coming off surgery?
Clearly, he's fine.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's healthy enough to be able to in a week or two, take a title fight.
Yeah.
In the guy's backyard on a huge card. Like, that's what I'm saying, where I feel like this, from a business perspective, like, they were fine with Charles not being able to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody's upset about that. And it's funny when Dana does it too. Like, Dana has this. I think Dana White is objectively one of the smartest guys out, one of the smartest CEOs and presidents of a company.
Yeah.
Like, the UFC is a Fortune 500 company at this point, but he's very fascinating in the way that he does business, because I think he's far more calculated than people will maybe give him credit for timing, environment, how he kind of controls it in a way. And I think that I would be like, from a conspiracy brain, like, I could totally see that he probably saw this maybe even 2 months out. Like, just from a conspiracy perspective, like, he could have been like, you know what, like, something's gonna happen to Charles, and like, if something happens to him in training, like, it's 100% gonna be Volk, and we're gonna be fine with it.
Yeah, it's possible. Conspiracy theories, can go on all day. I don't know that was the case. I think it just, what happened, and Volk is there to step up, so they gave it to him.
'Cause I saw the video when he was upset about somebody leaking that Charles got hurt, and now they put in Volkanovski.
Well, from my understanding, Charles got hurt like yesterday or the day before.
Exactly, what doesn't make any sense.
Why doesn't
So,
that?
like, for me, yeah, it got leaked out within the last, like, couple days, but, like, that information was going to come out regardless. So, like, if someone learned about Volkanovski doing it, like, I just think that it wouldn't. Why did it make him so upset that now Volkanovski got leaked out to the public?
I don't know. You're kind of throwing me in a blender right now, because
Sure.
I'm a little confused. Because from my understanding, Charles got cut in training. Mm-hmm. They went to the drawing board. They said, who should we put in? You're circling Justin Gaethje and you're circling Volkanovski. Who's available? Volk was
And
number
that's
one.
what I'm saying. I don't think that any other names were even discussed. I think that it was totally Volkanovski, and I think that I feel like it's more calculated than maybe we think. And that's where I'm saying, like, especially with these guys who are running billion-dollar corporations, like, and that's where I would say, like, from a conspiracy side, like, I don't believe that I believe that they think that maybe Charles wasn't ready for the fight prior to this. Like, just take the gash away.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of things that happen. Like, when I think about behind the scenes stuff, that, like, people are far more calculated than the public. So they say, I feel like they could have said 2 weeks ago, like, hey, Charles ain't looking good in sparring right now. And, like, yes, the gash happened, but, like, they're okay with the gash. Because, like, most people who, things like that happen, they're going to try and figure out a way. Like, it's going to get closer to the fight before they say, like, he can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, especially even, like, weigh-ins, like, things like that, they're very, and these are freak accidents. Some of these things are freak accidents for sure. I feel like there's a little bit more to it.
There could be, and I don't know if I'm on the same line of thought as you are. I just think it was
because you're in the fighter mentality
Yeah.
of, like, you've been in it where, like, something happens that can't let you train,
Yeah.
and, like, it takes you out of situations that are out of your control to a degree,
Yeah.
right? But, like, when you see it from a business side, because you're not in a situation where, like, billions of dollars are on the line,
Yeah.
and so they have to create entertainment that, like, is going to be maybe more, it's going to bring more pay-per-views. Because, like, if Justin Gaethje's against Islam, I don't know how big the pay-per-views get.
It's going to be big
It
regardless.
should be.
It will be.
Well, it should be, but I don't know if it's not bigger than Volk in Islam.
No.
It's not.
No.
So I don't even know if that's even discussed, because they're like, well, weird, they already fought. They should have fought later, right? But if Volkanovski's ready now, we're not even going to let Charles maybe heal. We're just going to be like, you know what? Just put him in.
Well, looking at the cut that he had, good luck healing that before fight night.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he was probably out regardless. But, there's a lot of conspiracies that I didn't really think about that you brought up.
Oh, dude, start looking for some of these things, too, because when you get in the behind the scenes of, like, some of these professional leagues and just the way that things work with, because one of the things I think people don't see prior is all of the things that it takes to get to the thing you're looking to get to, right? Like, as a fan, you turn on your pay-per-view or you get your stream. Don't stream things illegally as much as some people do in general. Start buying the fight, buy the pay-per-view, support them, support the fighters, please. that being said, when you get to a pay-per-view and you go home, you're riding home, you do that thing, and you buy your pay-per-view, you turn it on, and then the fight's about to start, the things that happen prior to the fight between everybody to get onto that stage and get into the octagon is insane.
It's unbelievable.
It's ridiculous for that to happen. Fans don't even realize it. People don't even realize it who are even like close to the process. Like for that fight, but like by the time the fighter even gets to where the venue is located, the amount of things that have to go right in between that time. And then you think about the stuff 4 weeks before where they're cutting and all that stuff. Like they got to make sure I'm sure the UFC has to make sure they're on time for that stuff. They got to make sure that the cut's happening the way it needs to be happening.
Yeah.
There's the USADA, there's the commission. Like, dude, the amount of things that happen in between, like,
Yeah.
you almost got to get lucky for these guys to fight.
Honestly, yeah.
Right?
A fight week is probably one of the most unenjoyable times for a fighter with media, especially on a pay-per-view with media, with weight cuts, with all that, everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's
The fluid in the brain. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on.
You're dehydrated. You're already unhappy because of the weight cut. And then you just got to talk to people all day, every day. I can only imagine.
Because the UFC pay-per-view is like a Super Bowl every single weekend.
Yeah, it's
right?
grand. They make it grand, and they
Yeah.
make sure it's perfect. So they're going to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
And the fighters got to do what they got to do.
And that's why I think that there's room for conspiracy, right? Like, only because of that type of stuff. Like, if there wasn't so much gray area that's happening like 4 to 6 hours before the fight, even, 4 to 6 days before the fight, like, you just don't see it. And so every time that things are happening, like, for that move to be made, it's so calculated, man. It's so much calculated, down to like the dollar, down to the ass in the seat, right? Like, and they got to make sure that you're excited to keep watching. You're a fan. You're actually a fanatic of the sport. So you would have watched if they put Michael Chandler in there.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered. But for the guy who's just learning about this and they heard about Volkanovski and they heard about Charles, like, oh, dude, if they put Volkanovski in here, like, that's going to make me buy the pay-per-view more. So, yeah, it gets a little bit more intense.
It's exciting. I can't wait for the rematch. It'll be fun regardless. They're both going to show up.
For sure.
And then the co-main is I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm happy with whatever. I heard rumors that Kamaru Usman might be stepping up to fight Hamzat. That's a banger.
That's nuts.
That would be wild.
He was just in Fashion Week not too long ago either, so I hope he's ready. He looked pretty good in Fashion Week.
These guys at the top will be ready for anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about it.
He needs a win, too.
He needs a win.
Yeah.
When's
When's the last time you could have said that this might be the first time in, 6 or 7 years that you could have said, like, Kamaru Usman needs a win?
Yeah, he's about to go on a losing streak.
He is on one.
He's on a two-fight losing streak. He needs a win here. And if he goes against Hamzat, beats Hamzat at a weight class above him, that would be crazy. A crazy derailment.
I think it's there.
It's there, 100%.
But I think he goes right down because he doesn't want to fight Izzy.
No, he's not going to fight Izzy. No. Especially, he might fight Strickland.
He's smaller than Strickland, though.
Yeah.
So, like, height-wise.
But you know what's crazy? He already beat Strickland when Strickland was at 170.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he has a win over Strickland. So if he's like, if he gives the bird to Strickland and goes and avenges Izzy's loss, he could do that.
But then after that, does he fight Izzy?
He vacates and gives it back to Izzy.
Yeah, I don't think they want to fight each other unless there's hundreds of millions of dollars on the line.
Realistically, Izzy's already said he's not going to be around for much longer. He said this probably last year that he's got 3 or 4 more years left. So who knows what he's going to do. And then Kamaru will probably either go back down or fight somebody else.
Okay.
But it's interesting.
It is interesting.